The views expressed on the Jerry Cahill CF podcast are that of Jerry Cahill and guests, and not necessarily those of the Boomer Esiason Foundation. Nothing on the Jerry Cahill CF podcast should be considered medical advice. Such advice can only be given by a physician who is experienced with cystic fibrosis. The Boomer Esiason Foundation, Jerry Cahill and guests cannot be held responsible for any damage which may result from using the information on this podcast without the permission of your medical doctor. You're listening to the Jerry Cahill CF podcast presented by the Boomer Esiason Foundation and jerrycahill.com.
Welcome to Jerry Cahill's CF Unmasked podcast series. In a world where everyone wears a mask, it's nice to see a soul. As a follow-up to the Crist episode, Donating the Gift of Life, this show, CF Meeting the Donor Family Post-Double Lung Transplant, was made possible through an unrestricted educational grant from the Allergan Foundation to the Boomer Esiason Foundation. Today you will meet Auburn Volz, 30 years old, born and raised in Northern Virginia and currently living in Charlotte, North Carolina. On October 24, 2016, Auburn received the call for a life-saving miracle, a beautiful set of lungs, due to the unconditional act of kindness and love from the Crist family.
Hi, my name is Auburn Stevens. I am 30 years old and I have cystic fibrosis. And I had a double lung transplant on October 24th, 2016. I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis at 2.5 years old, and my family really made me have a normal life. I, tried every single sport. Most failed, but I really got into cheerleading around middle school and cheered until my senior year of high school. It kept me active, it kept me running, it kept me flying in the air. And got me a lot of friends and got me out. After high school, I graduated and went to a local community college for 2 years till I got my health steady and transferred to UNC Charlotte, where I graduated with a degree in psychology and minors in public health and gender studies. And then right after that, I got married to my husband, Ben. We've been together 10 years, married 5. Growing up with cystic fibrosis, I always thought of myself as generally healthy. But when I talked to other CFers, I realized I guess I wasn't the norm. At 4 years old, I had part of my lung removed. At 6 years old, I had most of my large intestine removed. At 12 years old, I had another part of my lung removed. And this was all either due to blockages or just pneumonia in my lung that just ate away my lungs. I've had 30 sinus surgeries, but finally it was just, I was kind of just leveling out at 20%, just staying there. At that point, I kind of asked my doctor here in Charlotte, should I be talking to someone about transplant? Should I be going to Duke or Chapel Hill or somewhere, just to, get my name in the door, so they know me when it comes time? And he was a little hesitant, but he was like, I'll write you a referral, just go get your name, it won't be time. So I went and met the doctors, and they were like, you're definitely a candidate for transplant, but it's not really your window, which I was grateful for. I wanted to keep my original lungs as long as possible. And they made me come back in 3 months, and at that point, my lung function was about 18%, and they were like, okay, it's time. Get packed up, move to Durham, and come get your transplant. I was listed for 20 days. On my first day of being listed, I got called, which was a dry run, and then for the 4 days after that, I got called another 2 times, so 3 times total dry runs. And then on my 20th day, I got called for my transplant. When the call came, the real call came, I kind of didn't believe it was the real call, just because I've had 3 dry runs already, and I just, I was kind of just like, this might be it. I guess wasn't really thinking, this is it, we're ready to go. It really didn't hit me until they said, we have the lungs, they look great. And that's when it was, slammed you in the face, oh, this is what I've been waiting for. It's like you get to the front of the line at Disney World. I was very nervous until they said, let's go back, it's ready to go. And that was October 24th around 3 a.m., and they put the blue hat on you and started rolling me back. And at that point, I was at ease and I was ready. And I knew this was it, and this was my chance, this was my go. When I was around 40% lung function, I watched a YouTube video about transplant, some girl that went through transplant. And at that moment, I said, I will never get a lung transplant, just because her journey seemed so difficult. And I bite my tongue now at that, because obviously I've got a transplant, but it wasn't until I was at, 17% lung function dying when I was like, I don't want to die. I'm not ready to die. I'm 26 years old. Once I got to that point where you're dying, I guess that's when you realize I will do this crazy surgery and I will fight to live. I think the hardest part about my donor was when I got out of transplant, the surgeon went to my parents and said, these lungs are pristine. These lungs haven't had much time in the world, to get damaged. And therefore, we knew they were a child's. They haven't had cigarettes. They haven't had any pollution in their lungs. And at the time, I was 80 pounds and 5'2". So large lungs couldn't fit into me. And I think that was very bittersweet because, this person probably didn't have a long life to live. And here I was getting an extra years put into my life, and I was already 26. So after transplant, they usually tell you to wait a year. They recommend it, but they don't say it's a rule. And I'm such a nosy person. I was like, I have to know who blessed me with this extra chance at life. So at 6 months, I wrote a letter and mailed it to my coordinator, and then they mailed it on. Just not even questioning who I got the lungs from, just saying thank you and listing everything I've been able to do since my transplant because I have new lungs. I was willing to write that letter just to say thank you so those people knew, knowing that I could never find out who. But shortly after, as I was driving to my year appointment, my dad called and said, we just got an envelope with, this is the gift of life on it, so I'm guessing this is from your donor's family. And I read the letter in the car in McDonald's parking lot and bawled my eyes out as I learned that I got these lungs from an 11-year-old little boy. I've learned so much about my donor, Dre. He was 11 years old. He was in 5th grade. He loved playing football. He was a kind person, was always standing up for people when they got picked on. She has nothing but good things to say about him. And even in the letter that she wrote back through, 2 years ago was saying I know he sounds perfect, but he literally was perfect. And in that letter, she also included things like he loved tractors, he loved his small town, he loved playing football. And she gave a lot of facts in that letter. And she also made it a fact to write his full name, which was Dragon, and her name, Gia, in the town they lived in. So I went on Google real quick and Googled Dragon, which is a super rare name in the town, and his obituary popped right up. So then I found their last name, and I was able to go on Facebook and find them, and we messaged immediately that day and kind of formed a connection. Fast forward 2 months, and it was October 24th, 2017, so a year to the day that I got my transplant. They were in Durham looking for a house, and we met for dinner. And that first moment, we were at a restaurant, the first moment they walked in, I recognized her from Facebook. And it was like my heart jumped out of my chest. We immediately saw each other and just embraced each other in a hug. And both of us started crying, knowing that I was holding a piece of her son inside my body. And I was just so thankful that she voiced her opinion to give her son's lungs to someone and other organs to people so that they could live on when her son no longer could. Meeting them is it's so gratifying, being able to personally, face-to-face, thank someone for literally saving your life. If it wasn't for Dre, I wouldn't be here today. These lungs, I feel, were meant for me. They fit me perfectly. They have kept me alive for 3 years now. I just couldn't be more thankful, and to be able to say it face-to-face with a person who said yes to organ donation, it's an amazing feeling. I'm always thankful for cystic fibrosis. Most people resent it and hate that they have this disease, but it's really made me strong-willed, and it's given me the strength to fight not just CF, but everything in my life. I've risen from a lot of things that have tried to kick me down in life, but because of CF, I'm stronger than anyone could imagine. People always ask me, is it worth it? And I can say without a doubt, transplant has been 100% worth it. There's been ups and downs, there's been pain, there's been rejection, there's been all sorts of things that have gone wrong. But at the end of the day, I'm here, I'm living, and I have a little boy to thank for that.